7:30 in London. I'm very pleased to have you guys today, having Han and Jean to talk about this actually particular topic in esports. We're coming from a very interesting panel just before. I believe that there was much to say, and this one regarding payout also we have a lot to say, and price pool. So I am pleased to be
Can't
actually
hear Dany,
with
though.
Han and Jean. Hello everyone, how are you today?
Great.
Can you both hear me? That's fine. Fantastic. Jean, to you, can you hear me also? Is everything fine? Fantastic. So I think that I would like to start this panel together with an interesting number. I think that today, if we're trying to compile everything regarding esport, we're almost at $500 million as a prize pool. Where we're coming back actually in time, and you both are in this ecosystem for so long, we were not at this number.
Hello.
So how do you think, guys, that today we managed to reach that much money in terms of for the winners in so many actually different disciplines and games?
Cannot hear.
Maybe Han, you can actually start about this.
I cannot hear anyone.
I think it goes back to kind of how competitive gaming started in the grassroots scene, right? It was always about gathering a top number of players and teams together in a small environment where they pool in kind of an entry fee, and out of that entry fee is the prizes for the winning teams or players. And because it grew that way, there's always been a direct correlation of quality of event tied to the size of the prize pool. And now you're seeing prize money, especially with something like the international, where it's almost hitting $40 million, where the quality of event is tied to the amount of prize pool. And so when you see the prize pools being that big, the production quality goes up, the viewership number goes up, the sponsorship numbers go up. And I think that's where it's always been started at the grassroots, that prize money is always tied to the events.
To you, Jeans, let's say we're actually coming from a difficult period of COVID, so we didn't see a lot of offline events. 14.75 million in Counter-Strike in terms of prize pool. How does it sound to you today in 2021?
I don't think it's enough, to be quite honest. I think the level that teams are playing, the level that tournaments are being organized, I think Counter-Strike can do a lot more, especially giving the viewership, especially giving the passionate fan base, and especially giving teams that participate in this competition. It's that they show through mastery, they show incredible skill, and I believe CSGO can do a lot better. Should Valve decide to go for a compendium, the way they do with Dota 2, I think with the smartest move, I think they will get the biggest prize pool in the world, even bigger than Dota's, should they want to do the same thing for CSGO.
That's completely true. And you mentioned on top of this Dota, who's actually is in the middle of this prize pools also question. That is one of the biggest prize pool we can face. We were discussing about this with Han when we're talking about the Caesar Palace event, where the prize pools were actually gigantic. And it is coming actually to my first question to you too, Han and Jean. What do you think? Because this panel is divided in two parts. We're talking about e-commerce, and we're talking also about this actually prize pool. What do you think today is the real pain point of prize pool? Maybe Jean, you can start on this one.
Well, I think knowing a little bit how teams are being organized and sort of what their revenue streams are, I think for sustainable esports business, prize pools are not simply enough, right? There has to be something behind it as well, like revenue share on in-game items or revenue share for media rights, and that will help sort of professional teams to get their bottom line right, in the sense that they'll see revenue streams and prize pools they're just a cherry on the top of a pie. It has to be there in the first place, in the sense that for us as an industry to become more professional, we have to move on. Like, do you know the prize pool for the Super Bowl or for the Champions League final? You don't. You don't care. It's not part of the picture. And the reason why is because teams are well paid and reimbursed on the back through all sorts of other means, and prize pool included, but it's not such a big thing when it comes to economics of sports. And I truly believe that esports should move in this kind of direction as well.
I
when actually,
believe...
you know, not the number really attracts the viewers, but the level of play, the stories behind it. That's the most important thing.
Han, your 2 cents about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll add on to what Gene's saying. I think, you know, you got the 10 to 15% that's in the upper echelon of the, you know, the pyramid in terms of a pro tier structure. And I think what Gene proposed is what, you know, benefits that group. But what you're seeing is a lot more democratization of competitive gaming because it is such an open format and there's so many titles that you could go from zero to hero in a certain title. And so what that happens is that with an open gaming community and you got multitudes of titles and different levels of competition, there's a lot more winners. And I think it's the remaining 85% that is where the challenge is of how do you compensate these people that are spending their time and their abilities to compete in these tournaments and online competitions and live events. How do you pay them? And what we found is that it's really hard to pay people cash because the fact that esports is global. And the requirements regarding the logistics and compliance and tax is what makes it complicated to pay out these individuals.
I completely feel what you're saying, Han. I remember when we have actually this preparation and we were discussing together before it was just an envelope. And I think that was Gene was mentioning it, or it was an envelope that we have to dispatch $1,000 actually dollar. Today we're talking about a huge amount. We have this Forex also question where you're actually welcoming, for instance, for an European tournament, you're having people from Korea, from America. Not everyone is getting on the same currency. So there's another layer of problem. I think that one quick question I was going to ask is to actually address this period. We actually out, should I say, depending on the country, we're trying to survive this pandemic. And this word digital is coming when we're talking about payout. Do you think that digital will serve better this price issue or interrogation, Han? Do you think that we can find actually a best way, or we should learn from traditional sports to address this today?
Yeah, I think, again, if you're trying to address the problems in the 85% of the, let's say, the pro-am scene, you know, that are winning, I would say, majority of the prize money in aggregate, I think the challenge is that, you know, everybody's playing right now, especially post-COVID, right, or current COVID and what's going to happen, is they're playing online and playing remotely in serious competitions for money. And the organizers and, you know, the publishers or whoever's funding the prize sources has the responsibility to pay these efficiently, but also follow compliance because, you know, if people get educated on what prize money winnings are, it's taxable income. And different government authorities in different, you know, regions and states and countries are very specific about, you know, people paying taxes on these payments. It's not just free winnings because you were good at a game. You actually have to follow the financial requirements and tax compliance to be paid. And I think that's where the educational process is really important. Because a lot of people are unfamiliar with it. Oftentimes, you know, they win money and they just go, when do I get paid?
Yeah,
and that's not
exactly.
That's how it's solved. Yeah.
So you mentioned so many points, and that's true. A big problem that was mentioned in esport is the delayed to be paid after actually winning something, and that's true because there's so many parameters to take in considerations. Jeans, do you share the same feeling regarding this point?
Well, I agree with here. Like I was just under the impression from a previous panels, really good heated discussion about, you know, how publishers and tournament organizers and professional teams should operate the space, and therefore I was sort of thinking in a mode of, you know, catering and to the most elite athletes and the most professional teams. 100% that the majority of space is occupied by like semi-professionals, amateurs, and they actually make the bulk of tournaments in terms of playing and bulk of I would say maybe not even the money. Like I would like to see stats on it, right? Who actually gets what share of the pie? But definitely they see the majority of transactions going their way. So a lot smaller transactions split many different ways. across not just like a few dozen teams, but across thousands and thousands of teams in various countries. And it is definitely a challenge. It's 100% a challenge. It's 100% a hustle. And us as tournament organizers, we always like to get paid this thing on time, because we understand how important it is. You know, it's an effect of instant gratification, in a sense that you play a game, you win a reward, you have your achievement, then you won a tournament, and you want to have this same kind of behavioral pattern repeated with prize money. But as Han mentioned, yes, it's a huge logistical hurdle when it comes to different jurisdictions, different tax systems. And to put on top of that, if you work with lots of amateur teams, as we do, well prepared in terms of, you know, having an internal infrastructure to support this kind of payment. Some of the teams do not have bank accounts. Some of the teams don't have proper paperwork. They don't, like, for that matter, they don't even know how to sign an invoice or send it over to us in such a way that our finance department does not kill themselves. It's like, what the hell is going on here? And it's up on us to educate players in such a way that, you know, that all these transactions is seamless and is speedy and as painless as possible. You know, you want money after all. You should be celebrated for that. You won a tournament. There is an achievement, and here we go. This is your prize pool. That should be the easiest thing in the world.
That's true, and from both actually your point of view, you both mentioned one word, is educating. And it's very funny, because on the last panel, I feel like they were actually trying to maybe send a message to the publisher. On your side, Jeans, what do you think how can we service the market in the best way possible? What do you think, what solution can we propose today regarding this prize pool, for instance?
Well, I was thinking about it a lot. Obviously, that, you know, once you onboard players to a tournament, there should be something, you know, like a good, well-looking one-on-one kind of prize pool manual, right? I think. Well, another thing, obviously, we can educate players. We can work with them. The more players work within a certain tournament system, the more educated they become, and that's all easy. But I think the most important thing here is that how we make this kind of transactions painless for everyone, in terms of that players do not get overtaxed, and we as tournament organizers do not we do not have such a big administrative and transaction fee as well, right? There has to be a fair balance here. Any kind of service that we use, plus foreign exchange, plus different jurisdictions, tax systems. I think the easiest thing I'm thinking right now, that's you know, let's literally blockchain and let's start playing people in cryptocurrency. You know, get a wallet. Here we go. Super fast transaction. Well, how you like get this into fiat money? You know, to pay your utilities bills or buying a new keyboard or a new headset.
Perhaps you're giving right now a big enough idea with the cryptocurrency, Jeans. Maybe you will be the one actually coming up with the right idea. Han, on your side, do you think that how can we actually help? And I know that from the company that right now you're building, but what do you think that digital mix with good ideas, what could be the solution for us to educate actually those publishers, or maybe to support them in this very tough part? When the winners actually manage to lift the trophy, you should be actually thinking about celebrating. How do you think we can actually address this in the best possible way?
You know, we're tackling this problem head on. I mean, that's what our company was designed ground up to address. All the pain points, reducing the friction that's related to the logistics and compliance and financial onboarding. But, you know, I think the key here is to fully understand, you know, what you're offering in terms of a payment solution that resolves those points of, you know, how do you educate the winners? And again, if you look at the demographic profile of the amateur scene that's winning the prize money, unlike other sports where only pros win money from, you know, competitions, Esports is different, where amateurs that are really good at a specific game, or let's say not your AAA title, but other competitions where they can win $100 to $500 for being really good at. You need to educate them about what they just won. And I think it's the processes, and it's not just the developers and publishers, but it's everybody else, including the tournament organizers and the team managers, that have to fully understand how complex it is, but also having the solutions that streamline and best educate people. And I think that's where, a lot of the, where it's a lot of the disconnects, and it's lacking in terms of support. And that's why there's a lot of confusion. And oftentimes the delays in prize money payments isn't due to someone's fault. It's just people not understanding what the processes are.
That's very true about this. The delay is something that's been mentioned so many times in so many disciplines. Coming back actually to one point you were talking about compliances just earlier. We have GDPR, we have the rest. We have the tax with the players. It is not very relevant to a player, but it's relevant to an organization. And what do you think that today it's penalizing more? The structure itself, the publisher that's not overlooking this much, or the player? What do you think about this? I take an example.
I think compliance.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think compliance affects both the payer of record and the winners, because there's different levels of compliance that both have to be party to when there's transfer of cash, right? Where I think the challenge is to understand, how do you address those compliance layers? So in terms of the tournament organizer or the publisher, who I consider our payer of record, right? They got responsibility to follow GDPR and CCPA, the privacy compliance requirements that are set up now, right? Of how you collect, store, and secure pretty sensitive information, including tax numbers, banking information, right? So now they have to be compliant on that. Then comes the global funds transferring, which both parties are responsible for, right? Which is your know your customer, know your business, anti-money laundering compliance, especially when you're doing cross-border transactions. And then the last part, which we touched on before, which is the tax regulations, right? Again, prize money is considered taxable income because it's earned from contests of skill. And so every tax authority, not every country has these policies in place, but I can tell you the UK, the US, Germany, Sweden, where the major esports organizations are based out of, have very strict tax requirement and reporting methods. And so, and then ultimately with the tax reporting method, who's responsible to pay the withholding or the tax amount that's due to those? It's the players. So there's compliance that affects everybody. And again, it's education. A lot of people just don't know that it's very complicated, and you have to know this, especially if you're going to compete where it's free to enter and all of a sudden you're 16 years old and you just won $3 million, right? Because you went through the entire tournament. What does that mean? So to celebrate that $3 million, you want to make sure you get it fair and right.
And not only those $2 million, Han, we're talking about also structures that want to launch their own competition. I think they also want not to actually deal with all the logistic and, should I say, paperwork,
right,
of this, because we're talking about the Invitational, we're talking about MSI, we're talking about the League of Legends actually woke up, but we also have to think about lately with the digital and the pandemic that a lot of people are trying to host themselves. They actually manage to crowdfund, and to get money. But at the end of the day, it's the same problem. It's just the scale is different. Jeans, don't you actually, as Star Ladder is actually linked very closely to this. Do you have the same opinion than Han regarding this compliances and those pain points?
Absolutely, that's a really important point. I think to add on top of that is that, for instance, when you operate in markets in jurisdictions that have really strong infrastructure behind it, right? I'm talking about the state infrastructure, such as the European Union, such as country within the common European economic area, or for that matter, NAFTA in United States, in North America, when Canada, United States, and Mexico are part of it, or Mercosur in Latin America. Sort of their the level of legislation is more or less aligned there. But what I think the biggest challenge is going to be right now, especially with the advent of mobile gaming and mobile esports, is that in new growing markets such as Southeast Asia, Middle East, and soon East and West Africa, next 5 to 10 years, a huge influx of players, participating in tournaments, not necessarily winning millions, but winning sizable amounts of money who would like to get paid. And they're based in jurisdictions that are not really prepared in terms of, or not aligned with for instance, where the publishers are based or tournament organizers are based. And you're always trying to figure out, which jurisdictions base which, what taxes are being paid everywhere. I think that's going to be a huge challenge the next one. I really don't know how we're going to solve it unless we have a truly global economy under one shadow government, pulling all the strings. Jokes aside, I think it's a serious undertaking that we all have to look at, especially when we as StarLadder are launching mobile tournaments globally and especially Asia, especially in the Middle East. This is where I think is going to be a bit of a challenge there. It's just to get everything right. Obviously, it's going to be a steep learning curve for all of us involved in it.
Oh, okay, all right, and that's actually, I just want to maintain your last actually words that actually for payout. If we talk about e-commerce, especially not only for publishers because they are well served, they exist for a long time. If we're talking about e-commerce with esport, I don't know if you remember when we actually chat together, we actually managed to realize that fans are from all over the world. But when actually one esport team is based in one country, Han, Jean, how do we address this? How we can make that unique a customer from, for instance, United Kingdom buying in the USA or someone in Korea buying in the USA? Han, do you think that this is the same pain point we're talking together? Compliances, Forex, etc.
I think it's a different pain point, because now what you're looking to do is build a relationship between the fan and the team, and how do you transact between that, right? And then even with the team, if each of the players on the team or within the organization were also, let's say, generating income from their fans as streamers or influencers and additional, right? It's about the pay-in process now, right? How do you process those payments in, and how do you offer the different payment methods so that you can get paid from all these different regions? So I think that's a different set of complications, but I think there's a lot more payments in providers than payouts providers that can deal with international or global trade, global e-commerce.
Okay.
The pay-in, there's a lot of companies that are able to do pay-in, but I don't think there are that many companies that are focused on how do you do payouts internationally.
It's a good comparison that I wanted to have for you. Go ahead, Jeans. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I completely agree with Han. Sort of in terms of global economy, we have figured out how to take money out from the customers, right?
Yeah.
So many different. It's not a problem for instance, you go to AliExpress or something there from United States, or being in Kenya, you can definitely get something off Amazon or eBay. But another thing is definitely how do we send people money to people? Maybe looking at something what TransferWise does. That's just jumped on top of my head in terms of what they do. We're still getting there with these global smart financial applications, right? That could work. We use sometimes PayPal to pay some of the smaller, if they have an account in a country that they operate in, it's possible to actually transfer money via PayPal or like WeChat Pay or Alipay. All these systems, but once again, I agree, it's a challenge. How do you get money
I just
out?
want to add on to Gene. Yeah, I want to add on to Gene's answer, and I think another thing that Gene and I spoke about in our earlier meeting was, that each country also has their preferred method of, digital payments, right? Some countries prefer mobile payments. Some countries prefer PayPal. Some countries prefer bank transfers. And that further complicates it because now you have to offer all sorts of methods of payments, especially if it's being originated from one source. And so that's another, problem that you have to tackle. The last thing you want to do is have your finance team, if you're the organizer, sign up for all these different payment methods in every country to be able to pay that, two players in, Indonesia and then two
That's
players
true.
in the Middle East. Yeah.
So I completely feel you, and the reason I'm asking you this, it's my pain of every day. I got the luxury and the real pleasure to discuss with publisher and esport teams, and I think what they want to do, just like in both your industry guys, is to reach the fans, to make the fan, but the players also. And the pain point they're having today is to really have that unified interface to please everyone. I'm coming also from video game. I was playing a lot on MMO. You know, in MMO, guys, you're meeting people from all around the world. I managed to actually meet people from Bulgaria and at the south of Venezuela, etc., because the servers were very big. And the problem is that we don't have the same experience when we want to buy something. They want to buy something on the game. I'm in London right now, so I'm connecting myself. The interface is answering to me, Dan, you can play with Klarna, you can play with PayPal. But what about the guy in Venezuela? Does he have the same experience? And I think that this is the kind of issue that they're trying to address right now. They have to make sure that everyone in the world should be the same and have the easiest way to do so. That's potentially my mission. Just a quick heads up. I just want to let you know that we're more than happy to receive questions either on the chat or on the link that's been given on the side that's going to be shared very soon. But continuing to this, I think as a fun fact, Han and Jean, what do you think today is the biggest prize pool that is for you? Very surprising, but is a good indicator for esport. We're going to start with you, Jean.
Oh, you got me by surprise there. I think I really like what Valve does with Compendium and Dota 2. I think that's something in terms of prize pool. It's a really good tool. Both getting money out and most importantly, having people being engaged with esports in the sense that they're contributing some part, creating a big tournament, supporting teams, creating new in-game items. And I think it's really, really important tool in terms of both for Valve themselves as a retention, for the player base, and also for creating a fandom. The more tournaments should do, the better. PUBG Corporation has done a great job with it as well. The tournament just wrapped up. I think it's the longest world tournament that we have seen being held long on in one place. What they had 32 or so teams playing over 1.5 months, like 1 month and a half, and they use the same system in the sense that players contributed to a prize pool, something that I believe strongly that attracts players to watch the games later, have what stakes in it, and that's something that is close to my personal philosophy, and I really appreciate that when publishers and the tournament organizers do this kind of thing. They try to engage with the community, and community responds back. If they see value in their money being spent on a prize pool. I would love to see more of that happen.
Well, thank you, James, for a question that took you by surprise. I got a very good answer from you. Han, on your side, same question.
Yeah, I'm going to go again with what Gene's saying, which is the crowd-funded mechanism of increasing prize pools. It's unheard of. It doesn't happen in traditional sports where the community, the fan base is engaged and willing to up the prize pool so that it breaks all sorts of records. I think there's been, infographics that have been sent around that, the players that are winning the international have won more money from a single event than most traditional pro athletes, right? For competing in a league or a season. The other surprising area, and I think this is where it's overlooked, is some of the smaller gaming companies and developers that have put up significant prize money to develop their fan bases. It's not surprising when you see games, mobile games that aren't getting the attention that, the AAA titles or the big, standard esports, where, they may be announcing $1 million world prize. But when you see like Free Fire announcing a $250,000 LATAM program, right? Or another, mobile game company that's now putting up, $300,000 every year in prize money. In aggregate, the amount of prize money that's increasing at the smaller organizer, developer, and publisher levels is pretty astounding. And I can see this trend continuing to happen because esports is so important to engage their, player base.
Okay, thank you very much. It's true that crowdfunding it's something unique to esports. We don't see this in football, we don't see it in basketball, but we see that because it's attracting the passion of people. So to dig in again, we mentioned one of the biggest problem that was being mentioned in esport tournament, the delay in prize money payout. And I want just to actually emphasize today about the digital payment. We're actually looking at maybe around 2021 global around 1.6 billion in terms of the esport market. And this number, do you think it should be today easily addressed with the technology that we have with all those intervenants in fintech, for instance? Or do you think that it's still something that should be only overlooked by the publisher? We're talking about actually money that is crowdfunded. So we're not talking about only sponsors that's putting their hand on the make. Do you think that it's fair? Maybe that's more my question today, that it should be overlooked by a company like yours, Han, or do you have a say from StarLadder, or it should be something noble staying with the publisher? Who wants to go first on this one?
I'll take a stab at it here. I'll take it as a stab. Obviously, I'm biased because I feel like, because of the complexities around the logistics and, compliance around, around payments, it needs to be a turnkey, holistic solution that's being provided by people that understand all those complicated layers. Trying to build that internally, and I know from experience of having worked at one of the largest tournament organizers, building it internally isn't our focus, and the amount of resources that it requires to create an internal solution is just not feasible. Almost to the analogy of like why you trust third-party tournament organizers. The publishers are licensing their titles or hiring these organizers because they're better at organizing some of the best competitions than building an internal team to try to do it on your own. And so I feel like there's going to be a third-party payment solutions company. Hopefully it'll be us that kind of crack that nut, of like, you can trust us, we can ensure this, and we make sure that, we handle this solution so you don't have to. You focus on what you guys are. So if you're a publisher, it's about making great games and fan engagement. If you're a tournament organizer, run the best events. Don't worry about, adding another complexity to your business that you're not going to spend the right resources and infrastructure on.
Gene, on your side,
sharing I actually agree. I actually agree. So the deal is like the way we operate, we have our own tournaments, right? That we're around under our own brand name, and then we just license, quote unquote, a game from a game publisher, get their permission, but that we paid everything out of our own pocket. And in this sense, when we do things, I think we figured out a pretty good way to do it by ourselves, right? With the players that we have. But should the amount increase, I definitely see a value in a third-party payment system. It's going to be a lot less hassle for us. That's we're not a team of people doing different things. We would like to concentrate on being better at pricing and esports than become experts in shore accounts. That's not our particular expert, or like being expert in different taxation systems across the world. That's I would honestly leave it better to professionals, but it comes at a sensible price point, right? Especially when you're an organizer, you're not that big, right? Let's say $10 to $20. I think average price pool right now across all of the competitions. If you subtract big names and this transaction fee there, it can be an issue for smaller tournament organizers who are not willing to part with, maybe like even 5% of their meetings transferred. But when it comes to big events or organizers themselves, when we as a tournament organizer are just doing a solution, here also that I would like to take our hands off prize pool here, because we have done both approaches. I'm not going to mention the publishers here. Some publishers would like to pay themselves, but others like to leave it up to us. And it's too much, I think, to ask for to handle. If you have white label to handle the payment from Treasure, I think publishers definitely bring on a trusted third-party paying platform partner who has the money in a way, and the tournament organizer will be left with just making sure that sports integrity is observed, broadcasting is up, quality is up to par, and all the rest of the esports are where they need to be for AAA titles and AAA events. That would be my 2 cents here.
You are a good example of this because your company is assisting on organizing events, and that's what you're doing what's best. Han actually was saying just before is that the digital today and the fintech grows so badly, and that's the word I'm using, so badly, that they maybe actually need an education about what we can do, how far we can go for them, so they can focus on having the best content in terms of having the best venue, the best organization regarding the event, and maybe leave for the finance companies to do so. And I think that you addressed this the best way, gentlemen. Thank you very much. We have actually a couple minutes left. We have some question. If you're okay with this, Han and Jean, we can address them. The first question,
Sure.
Han, was coming from Ludwig. He was asking, what do you think about the potential through blockchain technology when it comes to payouts?
I think it's definitely in the future, just because of the ease of global transferring, and also the cost efficiency related to those transfer. But I think until it's more accepted, especially under regulatory compliance, and again, I think it's the tax issue. Unless there's more regulatory body and oversight on blockchain and cryptocurrency, I don't see it being a short-term solution and immediate, impact. Because right now we're talking about cash announcements, transferring of cash to the winners, and so you're solving a cash problem, not a stored value problem.
Yep. Like a workaround. It's just actually addressing just one problem, not the overall issue. That's completely true. Yeah. Jean, one question actually, it's coming. It's like Simplicity Esports has announced plans to sell limited edition NFTs to members of its gaming centers. Thoughts on crypto fans token and crypto prize pools? That was going to be one of my questions. It seems like this question is connected in Bluetooth with me. So crypto prize pools, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm a big fan of blockchain, right? I'm really sad that it's gotten abused by ICOs and not really good coin offerings, right? It sort of created its own bubble a couple of years back that kind of blew and left this wonderful technology a little bit out in a dry, but it's coming back. But I think the most important thing is the currency fluctuation, right? Kind of tokens, nifties, NFTs, is that the value fluctuates violently, right? There is no way of predicting whether it's going to go up, which is good for winners, or you can go the other way around, right? You can go from riches to rugs back instantly. And I don't think it's a sustainable way to pay prize pools just yet. I think more established crypto, right, such as Bitcoin, even though that fluctuates violently as well, maybe Ether is a little bit less, but I think that can be there. Something done there, right, in terms of it's easy, understandable, easy transfer of money and funds. Something along these lines could be done when, let's say, tokens lock a certain value, and then you have a chance to transfer it into any currency that you wish at a low transaction fee at a later date. That would be something, right? That would be something good in the sense that winners get something of value right away, and then they
maybe
themselves
better
figure out.
logistic, maybe more practical and better logistic, but it's more about the adoption. Is that correct? I think that if we have to talk about crypto price pool, everyone has to be on crypto price pool for a long time. Han, I think that this is an interesting question. I would like to address this to you. What is your thought about crypto price pooler?
I think it's another can of worms you're opening. A lot of people who are familiar with blockchain and cryptocurrency, right, are going to understand it. But again, look at your demographic profile. Sure, there's a lot that are tech savvy, that are fully understand it, and probably made lots of money from being ahead of the curve. But I'm pretty confident that the majority of people out there are not educated on blockchain and how cryptocurrency and all this works. That's another layer of education that you have to explain, like why they're getting paid in Bitcoin and how do you use an exchange to convert it to fiat. I mean, that, again, I think it's in the future, and there's going to be a different wallet systems and different exchanges that make it easier, user friendly, and educate people. But today, there's only a small percentage of people that fully understand it, that have really successfully, profited from it, right? There are a lot of others that have bought high and let's say they lost out on what it really means to, understand the rising curve of cryptocurrency.
Thank you. I know that it wasn't an easy question. I know that cryptocurrency is very actually not only a tech question, but more like an opinion one. I think that some people think we're already advanced to actually deal with it. Some people think that we're not ready because there's so much to say about this. And we're going to actually finish with one last question. A question from Kerry to both of you. I give you a magic wand, okay? And what's one barrier in payment that you would wish you could wave away? And only one that is for you is the most critical. We're going to start with Gene.
Well, I think you just one wish, right? Not just a wish and a half. Or I have to go with one wish. I guess I would wave away what hurts teams the most actually, and that's is that in majority of the countries, prize pool winnings are not equated to income profits, right? So it's a different tax brackets, and players are being taxed unfairly more for their prize pools than, let's say, a person doing a business transaction otherwise. So I would wave away that one. That's sort of the esports winnings equate not just winning something like a lottery ticket or whatnot. It's actually a skill, that it's a job, and that should be taxed at a similar rate at any other profession, so to speak, in terms of income tax and whatnot.
Han, what could you do with this wand?
I'm upset that Gene got to answer first, because with my magic wand, I would have said complicated tax rules, simplify it. Again, so that there's full transparency, that, when prize money is earned, payers of record know what they have to report, and payees know that they have to pay X percent on taxes. Right now, with every country dealing with how they treat this, makes it complicated, especially if you're the tournament organizer or publisher, because no one out there has a central tax database that says, if it's coming from this to this person, this is all the rules and forms that you need to file with the different authorities. It is very complicated. And that's where I would try to get rid of that and say, globally, it's a 20% tax to the country that they reside. And that's it. And that's one form you fill out. And that would simplify this whole logistical nightmare, and the players would benefit, so that they don't get penalized later because they didn't know any better.
I would actually have answered this question, but you guys very summarize it. I think that making it easier will be what I will do with the wand. I think that when we're mixing finance with any actual other recipe, it's making it complex. Today, I just want to make sure that people understand that digital and fintech are actually making everything easier. And maybe it should be a bottle in the water, in the sea, so actually publisher can actually trust us to actually support this on this. we're actually about on time right now. So I just want to actually thank you, Jeans and Han, to actually be here with me on this panel. And it was Dan actually from Nuvei. I wish you to have a good evening. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Han.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone. Have a
Bye-bye.
great evening.
Bye.